When you start aligning your step with God's vision, something begins to happen deep within you. Your perception starts to shift. You no longer see life as a random sequence of events. You begin to recognize a pattern, a divine orchestration working behind every moment. What once looked like coincidence now feels like guidance. But to reach that level of awareness, you must learn to look beyond the surface. You must train your eyes not just to see, but to perceive. Because the greatest obstacles to divine alignment are not outside of you, they're within you, hidden in the fog of doubt, fear, and old conditioning. Most people are running through life on autopilot, reacting rather than responding. They call it being busy, but busyness without direction is just another form of distraction. When your mind is constantly occupied, you lose sensitivity to the deeper movements of life. You stop noticing the quiet nudges, the small signs, the inner whispers that are trying to direct you. It's like trying to hear a soft melody while standing in the middle of a storm. The noise drowns it out. That's why silence is not just absence of sound. It's a gateway to clarity. When you become still, you begin to hear what life has been trying to tell you all along. Alignment demands awareness. Awareness of who you are, where you are, and what's moving you. Many people pray for divine direction, but keep walking in contradiction. They say, "I want to walk in God's plan," yet they continue to carry anger, bitterness, jealousy, and fear. You cannot walk a divine path with a divided heart. The universe responds not to your words, but to your vibration. When your inner state is cluttered, even the clearest message from above gets distorted. You have to cleanse the noise, remove the unnecessary, and become transparent enough for the light to pass through you. When you start clearing the fog, you'll realize that alignment is less about what you do and more about what you become. You can't fake harmony. It's either there or it's not. And when it's there, you feel it in your body, in your breath, in your being. Things that used to exhaust you now energize you. People who used to trigger you now teach you. Even pain becomes purposeful. You begin to move through life not with struggle, but with grace. That's the silent power of being aligned. You stop fighting against the current and start flowing with it. But this flow doesn't mean you won't face challenges. In fact, the closer you get to your divine alignment, the stronger the tests become. Life will start revealing all the places within you that still resist surrender. Situations will arise not to break you, but to polish you. Each challenge becomes a mirror, showing you what still needs to be refined. Maybe it's pride, maybe it's impatience, maybe it's attachment. Whatever it is, alignment will expose it, because light reveals what darkness hides. The truth is, alignment is not for the faint-hearted. It requires courage, the courage to stand alone, to say no when everything in you wants to say yes, to trust the unseen when the visible doesn't make sense. But every time you choose faith over fear, you take another step toward your divine path. And once you taste that peace which comes from being in tune with something greater than yourself, you'll never again settle for the noise of this world. There's a story told in every heart, a story that only unfolds when you stop trying to control the narrative and allow the author to write it. Sometimes what you think is a detour is actually the direction. What you think is a loss might just be the clearing of space for something sacred. If you could see the entire picture, you would realize nothing was ever random. Every delay had a design. Every heartbreak carried a hidden seed of transformation. The divine vision doesn't operate on your timeline. It operates on alignment time. To align means to trust even when the road is not straight, to walk even when the next step is unseen, to believe that every step has meaning. It's the realization that your life is not an accident, it's an assignment. When you truly understand that, you stop competing, comparing, and complaining. You start cooperating with life. You start moving in rhythm with grace. So take a deep breath. Look around your life right now. Is there any place where you've been resisting what life is showing you? Maybe you've been holding on to something that's no longer serving you, or chasing something that's not aligned with who you're becoming. This is your moment to release and realign, because every time you realign, the universe recalibrates everything around you to meet you where your soul belongs. Pause and ask yourself, am I living by chance or by choice? Am I being moved by circumstance or by clarity? Your honest answer will reveal your alignment. When you begin to align your step with the vision God has placed for your life, you must understand one essential truth. Alignment requires transformation. You cannot walk in divine order while carrying the same mindset that once kept you limited. Every time God calls you to a higher path, He first calls you to a deeper change within yourself. The outer world begins to shift only when the inner world surrenders. Most people want the promise, but not the process. They want the vision fulfilled, but are not willing to become the vessel capable of carrying it. But transformation is not a punishment, it's preparation. It is the way life molds you into the shape required to hold what's meant for you. So many people pray for clarity, but when the answer begins to unfold through challenge, they resist it. They say, "Why is this happening to me?" instead of asking, "What is this teaching me?" Every obstacle, every delay, every heartbreak has been designed not to destroy you, but to develop you. When the Creator wants to align you, He often removes what you thought you needed. He strips away your false securities, your unhealthy attachments, and your illusions of control, not to hurt you, but to free you. You cannot receive divine direction while your hands are full of distractions. Sometimes He empties your hands so He can fill them with purpose. Transformation begins when you stop fighting the process. When you stop asking life to fit into your comfort zone and instead allow life to expand your capacity, you cannot be aligned and remain the same, because alignment is movement, it's evolution, it's the shedding of what no longer belongs to the next version of you. The seed cannot become the tree unless it's willing to break open. The same way, you cannot grow into your divine potential unless you are willing to let parts of you dissolve the doubts, the fears, the smallness you've been clinging to. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth always is. When you align yourself with the higher vision, you begin to notice that certain people start drifting away. Certain desires fade. Certain situations that once seemed important lose their meaning. That's not loss, that's alignment at work. The universe is reorganizing your environment to match your evolution. Don't cling to what's leaving. It's making room for what's arriving. Alignment demands authenticity. You cannot pretend to be aligned. Your energy always reveals the truth. When you live out of alignment, you feel it as restlessness, anxiety, or dissatisfaction. You keep searching for something outside to fill the emptiness inside. But when you start living in truth, when your thoughts, words, and actions reflect the same frequency, you feel peace even in uncertainty. That peace is the sign of alignment. That's how you know you're walking the right path. You must also understand that alignment is not about perfection. It's about progression. Don't wait to have everything figured out before you move. The divine path is not revealed in full. It unfolds step by step. If you can trust the next step, even without seeing the entire staircase, you're already aligned. Faith is not about knowing every detail. It's about knowing who's guiding you. Each act of trust strengthens your alignment, and every act of doubt weakens it. So choose trust not because it's easy, but because it's true. There will come moments when you feel like nothing is working. The road feels long, the silence feels endless. In those moments, remember, alignment often happens in hidden seasons. The seed doesn't grow in the sunlight. First it grows in the dark soil, unseen. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Some of your most powerful shifts are happening beneath the surface, in silence, in surrender. Keep walking, keep believing. The unseen will soon become visible. Transformation also means responsibility. Once you know better, you can't go back to ignorance. Once you see truth, pretending not to know it becomes painful. When you align with the divine vision, life begins to test your integrity. Are you willing to stay true to what's right, even when it costs you something? Are you willing to honor your calling, even when others don't understand it? That's the price of alignment, but it's also the path to freedom. So look within your life right now. Where is life asking you to transform? What habits, attitudes, or attachments are pulling you out of harmony? Maybe it's time to release that old version of yourself, the one that doubts, hesitates, and fears change. The new path cannot open until you let the old one close. Take a breath. Feel where resistance still lives inside you. Because the moment you surrender that resistance, grace flows. Transformation is not something you force. It's something you allow. You see, when you talk about aligning your step with God's vision for your life, it's not about becoming something different from who you are. It's about realizing what was already planted within you before you even took your first breath. Every one of us came into this world carrying a certain design, a certain blueprint of purpose. But most people spend their whole lives trying to fit into someone else's design, someone else's definition of success, of happiness, of meaning. They never pause to ask, what did the Creator have in mind when He made me? The moment you ask that question sincerely, a shift begins. You stop chasing illusions and start walking toward intention. When your steps are not aligned with the vision that was created for you, life becomes a series of frustrations. You may have everything people dream of: comfort, possessions, even recognition, but still feel like something is missing. That emptiness isn't because life is unfair. It's because your direction is misplaced. You're walking fast, but maybe in the wrong direction. What use is speed when the path itself leads away from your destiny? Alignment is not about movement, it's about direction. There's a quiet wisdom that moves through life when you walk in tune with that higher vision. Everything begins to connect. Moments that once seemed random now make sense. Pain that once felt cruel begins to reveal its purpose. You begin to see that even your setbacks were shaping your strength, your disappointments were deepening your discernment, and your waiting seasons were building your wisdom. That is alignment. When you are aligned, life doesn't become easier, it becomes clearer. But alignment doesn't happen by chance. It happens when you stop living by your emotions and start living by your awareness. You can't align your step with God's vision if your mind is constantly dragged by fear, doubt, and the noise of opinions. You have to get still enough to hear that whisper that comes not from your head, but from deep within. That whisper doesn't shout, it guides. It doesn't command, it invites. You must be quiet enough, humble enough, and trusting enough to follow it. Many people say, I don't know what my purpose is. But purpose is not something you go out to find like a lost coin. It is something that unfolds when you stop resisting who you truly are. God's vision is already within you. It's the pull you feel when you do something that makes you come alive. The peace you feel when you take a step in the right direction, even if no one understands it. The more you honor that voice, the louder it becomes. The more you ignore it, the more confused you feel. So the real question is not, what is my purpose? But am I listening? There's a beauty in surrender, not the surrender of weakness, but of trust. When you let go of the need to control everything, you open yourself to be guided. You stop forcing things to happen your way and start allowing them to happen the right way. You begin to realize that some doors close because they're not meant for you, and some delays exist because you're being prepared for something greater. When you align with that understanding, frustration gives way to faith, and faith gives birth to peace. Alignment is not a one-time event. It's a daily choice. Every morning you wake up, you have two paths before you, one guided by your ego, the other guided by your spirit. Ego says, do what impresses. Spirit says, do what fulfills. Ego looks for applause. Spirit looks for purpose. And every time you choose the spirit, you strengthen your alignment. It's like tuning a musical instrument. The more you fine-tune, the more harmony flows. But remember, alignment often demands isolation. There will be seasons where God will pull you away from certain people, certain distractions, certain habits. It may feel uncomfortable, but that's the process of repositioning. You can't walk in divine direction while still holding onto things that anchor you to confusion. When the divine calls, you must be willing to move even if it means walking alone for a while. Because in that solitude, you discover strength you didn't know you had. Every step you take in alignment carries grace. You'll start to see things shift not because you're forcing them, but because you're flowing with them. Opportunities appear not by manipulation, but by manifestation. What's meant for you will begin to recognize you. That's the mystery of divine order. It never misses its mark. So take a moment and ask yourself, are your steps aligned? Are you walking with purpose, or are you just moving out of habit? Because when your steps match God's rhythm, even the smallest action carries power. Every breath, every choice, every moment becomes sacred. You're not just living, you're being led. Now pause, look within. What's that one area of your life where you know you've been moving without alignment? Maybe it's your work, your relationships, or your habits. You already know the answer. That gentle voice inside has been telling you. The question is, will you listen this time? If this message stirred something within you, don't just let it fade. Sit with it, reflect on it. Share what truth awakened in you in the comments, because someone out there might need to hear your realization to find their own alignment. When you truly begin to align your step with God's vision, one of the most powerful realizations that dawns upon you is that timing matters as much as intention. You may have the right dream, the right desire, the right heart, but if you move before the right time, even something divine can turn into distress. Alignment is not just about knowing where you're going, it's about knowing when to move. The rhythm of divine timing is not dictated by impatience. It flows with purpose. Every moment of waiting, every delay, every silence has meaning. It is preparing the soil of your life for what's about to grow. But this is where most people struggle. They want God's vision, but they want it on their schedule. They want the blessing, but not the building. They want to harvest without planting, and they want results without refinement. Yet, in divine alignment, there is no rushing. The moment you try to rush what heaven is shaping, you distort it. You see, when life holds you back, it's not rejection, it's redirection. Sometimes the delay is protection. There are seasons when what you're praying for isn't being withheld. It's simply being prepared, and maybe so are you. Patience is not waiting and worrying. It's waiting while trusting. It's standing still on the outside while staying anchored within. It's understanding that just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there isn't motion. Have you ever noticed how the deepest roots of a tree grow in silence beneath the surface? You don't see them, but they're forming the foundation that allows the tree to rise without falling. The same happens in your life. When nothing seems to be happening, that's when the foundation of your purpose is being built. But the human mind doesn't like that. It wants progress it can measure, achievements it can display. It wants validation from the world that it's moving somewhere. So, when things slow down, the mind panics. It says, maybe I'm not doing enough, or maybe I've missed my chance. But the truth is, when you're in alignment, your pace is guided by grace. What you think is stillness is often strategy. What you call a pause, heaven calls preparation. When the timing is right, what took years to build can manifest in moments. Divine timing is never late. It arrives the exact moment you're ready to carry what you've been asking for. Many times, you don't get what you desire because your character is still catching up to your calling. You must be strong enough to handle what you prayed for. That's why certain doors don't open when you knock, not because they're locked, but because you're still being shaped into the one who can walk through them. Alignment teaches humility, the humility to trust the process, even when it doesn't look like progress. Life will sometimes seem unfair, as though others are moving faster, receiving more, achieving quicker. But comparison is the quickest way to lose alignment. What's meant for them is for them. What's meant for you is for you. Just because your path looks quiet doesn't mean it's empty. Remember, a seed buried underground looks lifeless too until one day it breaks through the surface, not by noise, but by nature. The waiting season tests your faith more than any storm. Because storms are visible, you can see them, feel them, and you know they'll pass. But waiting is invisible. It's a silence that challenges your trust in the unseen. Yet, those who can wait without losing peace are the ones who truly understand alignment. When you stop chasing outcomes and start trusting divine order, you shift from anxiety to assurance. That's when your life begins to flow. When you're aligned with God's vision, you don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you allow. You understand that what belongs to you doesn't need to be manipulated. It will find you because it's assigned to you. That's not just faith, that's alignment in motion. The peace that comes with it is profound. You stop begging for signs and start moving with knowing. You stop doubting the path and start dancing with it. And even when challenges appear, you no longer see them as punishment. You begin to see them as preparation, shaping your endurance, deepening your trust, expanding your awareness. You realize that every delay, every disappointment was necessary to make you ready for what's coming. Divine alignment doesn't deny you, it refines you. It takes away what's temporary so that what's eternal can stand. So right now, take a breath and ask yourself, are you trying to rush something that life is still preparing? Are you frustrated because you don't see the results yet? Maybe the timing isn't wrong. Maybe it's divine. Maybe you're still being strengthened for what's waiting for you. When your step begins to align with God's vision for your life, one of the most profound lessons you must embrace is that alignment demands faith beyond logic. It's easy to walk when the road is clear, but true alignment asks you to keep walking even when the path disappears. It's when you can't see how things will work out, yet something within whispers, keep moving. That's faith, not blind belief, but a deeper knowing that life is unfolding exactly as it should. You see, when your mind can't comprehend the plan, your spirit still recognizes the direction. And that recognition is where alignment truly begins. Most people lose their alignment not because they don't have faith, but because their faith is conditional. They believe as long as everything makes sense. They trust as long as things are moving their way. But alignment is tested in silence. When doors don't open, when prayers seem unanswered, when the light feels distant, that's when alignment asks, will you still trust the process even when you can't trace the path? Because in divine order, the unseen is often the most active. Just because your eyes can't see movement doesn't mean heaven isn't working behind the veil. Faith is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about standing firm even when it's not. It's about having the courage to stay planted in trust when everything around you is shifting. When you truly align yourself with divine purpose, you realize that things are not falling apart, they are falling into place. The chaos you see is not confusion, it's construction. What looks like endings are often beginnings in disguise. What feels like loss is usually alignment reshaping your life to make room for what's truly yours. When you begin to live this way, fear loses its grip. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start saying, even if it doesn't, I'm still aligned. That is the maturity of faith when your trust is not based on outcomes but on understanding. You realize that alignment is not about getting what you want, it's about becoming who you're meant to be, and sometimes the divine has to break your plans to fulfill your purpose. The greatest tragedies in life are not the moments you failed, they're the moments you lost faith in yourself, in life, in the higher hand guiding you. You must understand the divine doesn't play favorites, it plays purpose. Every test you face, every delay you endure is a necessary chapter in your unfolding. You may not like the story, but one day you'll look back and see that every page made sense. Every detour was direction. Every silence was strategy. To live aligned means to surrender control, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. It's saying, I may not understand this moment, but I trust that it's taking me somewhere meaningful. That's where peace begins. Because stress is born from resistance, but serenity grows from trust. When you resist life, you create friction. When you flow with it, you create freedom. Life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be cooperated with. When you walk in faith, you stop trying to force outcomes and start flowing with divine rhythm. Even in relationships, in careers, in dreams, when something leaves, it's not rejection, it's redirection. When something doesn't work, it's not failure, it's filtration. The divine filters out what doesn't fit your future. But if you keep clinging to what's leaving, you'll block what's coming. Faith means letting go not because you've given up, but because you finally understand that what's meant for you can't be lost. Sometimes alignment will require you to walk alone for a while. People around you might not understand your choices, your peace, your silence. That's because your alignment is not meant to be understood by everyone. When your path is divinely guided, it will often look unreasonable to those still driven by fear, but don't shrink to fit into their understanding. The divine didn't give them your vision, it gave it to you. So walk it boldly, even if you walk it alone. Every time you choose faith over fear, the universe rearranges itself to support you. You won't have to chase what's meant for you. It will recognize your vibration and find you. When your heart and your path are aligned, miracles stop being exceptions. They become natural. What others call coincidence, you begin to see as confirmation. Life starts speaking in patterns, and every moment becomes a message. So pause for a moment. Ask yourself, are you walking by sight, or are you walking by faith? Are you trusting only what you can measure, or are you willing to follow what you can feel? Because alignment requires courage, the courage to take one more step when logic says stop. If this touched something inside you, take a second and share what part of your journey has taught you to trust, even when you couldn't see the way. Your story might be the light someone else needs to keep walking in faith today. When you truly start walking in alignment with God's vision for your life, there comes a time when you must confront one of the hardest lessons: letting go of control. The human mind wants to plan, to predict, to make everything certain. It wants to hold the steering wheel and decide the turns, the speed, and the destination. But divine alignment doesn't work like that. When your steps are guided by something higher, you must learn to release the illusion of control. Because control is born from the fear that if you don't hold everything together, it will fall apart. But in truth, it's only when you let go that life begins to unfold as it should. There's a kind of freedom that only comes when you stop fighting with life. Most people live in a constant state of resistance, resisting change, resisting endings, resisting silence. They hold on to things long after their time has passed, but alignment requires flow, not force. When you stop clinging, you start receiving. The energy you once wasted on trying to control every outcome becomes the same energy that attracts what's meant for you. Life begins to respond differently when you stop chasing and start trusting. To let go doesn't mean to give up. It means to give in not to weakness, but to wisdom. It means you've realized that your understanding is limited, but the intelligence that governs life is infinite. When you let that intelligence guide you, life moves with a grace that effort alone can't produce. You've probably noticed, the more you try to control people, the more distant they become. The more you try to control situations, the more chaotic they turn. But the moment you release that tight grip, peace enters. That peace isn't laziness, it's alignment in action. It's knowing when to act and when to allow. People often say, if I don't take charge, everything will fall apart. But maybe things need to fall apart so they can fall into place. Maybe what you're trying to keep standing is actually blocking what's trying to rise. Letting go is not losing control. It's trusting a higher order that knows exactly what belongs where. The divine doesn't need your panic. It needs your participation. It needs your openness, not your obsession. When you release the need to control outcomes, you begin to experience something powerful: clarity, because control clouds perception. It fills your mind with anxiety and your heart with noise. But when you surrender, you create space for awareness to enter. Suddenly, you begin to see what was always there. You notice signs you once missed, opportunities that were waiting, lessons that were hidden. You start realizing that life was never against you. It was just waiting for you to stop resisting. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what isn't yours. Some burdens were never meant for your shoulders. Some battles were never meant for your hands. You're not here to fix everyone or force everything. You're here to align, to live in harmony with the purpose that flows through you. Once you understand that, peace no longer depends on circumstances. It becomes your constant companion, even in uncertainty. When you truly let go, something shifts in the universe around you. You begin to attract peace where there was chaos, clarity where there was confusion, and strength where there was struggle. Because letting go clears the path for grace to flow. And when grace flows, everything aligns naturally: people, opportunities, even timing. You don't have to beg for what belongs to you. It arrives effortlessly because you've become ready to receive it. But letting go is not always easy. Sometimes it means releasing people you love, plans you've made, or versions of yourself that no longer serve who you're becoming. That's painful, yes, but pain often precedes growth. Just like a snake sheds its old skin to grow, your soul must shed its attachments to evolve. The old cannot coexist with the new. If you want to walk in divine alignment, you must be willing to release everything that weighs down your wings. You'll know you've truly let go when you no longer need to explain or justify your peace, when you no longer need to convince others of your direction, when you no longer fight for what's already yours. You simply move quietly, confidently, gracefully because your trust is not in outcomes, but in the one who orchestrates them. So take a moment now, look at your life. What are you still holding on to out of fear, a plan, a person, a story you've outgrown? What would happen if you simply released it, not in bitterness, but in faith? Maybe, just maybe, that release is the key to your next breakthrough. If this spoke to your heart, take a moment and write in the comments what you're choosing to release today, because your act of letting go might be the reminder someone else needs to finally surrender and step into alignment.